If you think of Wesley and Whitfield, they had 8 years of incredible preaching of the gospel. Over 100,000 came to the Lord, but they did not shift or change British culture. They are often, because they were the pioneers of the spiritual, and yes, there was a great spiritual and social and economic awakening that came out of the Wesleyan revival, but it did not happen in that 8 years. After that 8 years, all that happened was the church was revived. But actually, from 1770s right the way through to 1804, it took to 1804 for Wilberforce to see the first breakthrough with slavery, and 1828, then 1830, before other social reforms began to come through Parliament. That was nearly 60 years later. But what they wrote onto the legislature of Britain between 1804 and 1830 has stood for 300 years until now. In fact, the last government, Tony Blair's government, began to unwrite most of those policies. But they stood for 300 years. The spiritual revival only stood for 8. The social economic one stood for 300. It emancipated women. It gave rights to the children. It broke the race thing and the slave thing. Women, children, and the black man in our nation was released. They were all given rights. And interesting, I don't know if you know this, but William Wilberforce was also the founder of the RSPCA. His heart was so broken for the disgusting way that animals got treated down the mines and everything else. He had such a kind, compassionate heart. He hated that slave trade. He hated the abuse of animals. And then Lord Shaftesbury, who he worked with, hated the abuse of women and children. And together those men pioneered through government, lost nearly everything. But they changed history. But something needs to stand up that begins to say, it's enough now, not on my watch. It's that resolute, determined, disciplined, consistent, day in, day out, one step forward, a million steps backwards, one step forward. How many of you know what I'm talking to?